Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Al Bob here, your griot to tell you a story and to have a nice live chat with y'all. Live chat. One of these days, I'll figure out how to keep the chat so when you look at it later, you can still see the chat. So I've been telling you about the hidden hand and the big splat, and I told you beginning of December in 2024 that astrologically a lot of things were aligning to the point where you had a great deal of opportunity to be yourself, your true self, not your mud puppet self, not your ego self, not your mind self, not your subconscious self, but your spiritual self of love, co-creation. And I said that, with each ticking day of the year of 2025, things were just going to get weirder and weirder. And here we are. I think today is the 14th or 15th. And how much more weirdy, but it's going to get weirder every freaking day. Right? So take a look at this. This will be very interesting. This is on the YouTube.
The most disturbing videos on the internet today. Let's dive in. Well, it seems it's about that time again. Time I go patent hunting, because every time there's something big in the news, I seem to find a patent. And I don't know if you've seen this picture or this video. Or this video where things from the other fire west of LA, the blue things didn't seem to want to burn. None of them. Which brings us to this video, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen, where a certain color doesn't seem to be impacted by that directed light. Which brings us to US patent number 103378. You can see the rest, but click on it, and what do we have? I'm not even going to say it up there, but you can read, and you can click, and you can read, and you can scroll. Go look for yourself. I'll tell you one thing I probably know for sure, though, is I bet a lot of the elites in that area, I bet none of them lost their lives. I bet they had some advanced warning of what was coming. But of course, all this is just speculation and satire, and I don't even know if that is CGI, AI, or what, but if I were you, I'd use my noggin and research more of myself. Entertainment only, of course. What an interesting theory. What was more interesting was how all the blue objects were unfazed.
Look behind me. Both of these scenes are happening at the same exact time. This is Texas. This is Los Angeles. The whole earth is going crazy right now, and I'm about to prove it. By the way, regardless what you say, none of this is normal. God said he put the heavenly bodies in the sky to tell us about time, space, and season. 3 blood moons are coming this year. And in just the first week of this year alone, we've had the Cybertruck, we've had the New Orleans, we've had mass casualty events, and the history-breaking LA fire. Yes, it's the biggest one in history. But see, speaking of these times, dates, and seasons, right now we have a once-in-a-100 lifetimes to see this Atlas meteor going through the sky. For the next few days, while all this stuff goes on right now, the same way we saw the Devil's Comet at the same time as the eclipse and the Devil's Comet over Portugal, where all that crazy stuff in Spain was happening. It's almost like all the things in the sky are for times, days, and seasons. By the way, this dude is walking on the street, and this fire randomly started right in front of him.
It just started here randomly? Dude,
are you glasses? Everything connects. Look at this article. Everything in this world connects. I mean, look at this right here. Earth is quite literally going crazy. Hyper-negatives happening just hundreds of miles away from each other. Y'all verifying Jesus like the Ethiopia churches right now. Everyone's taking a side because it is that time.
I've got to admit, the start of 2025 is starting off incredibly shocking. From the drones, the wildfires, the different events going on in the skies, it just makes you think, what's going to happen next? There's definitely some type of communication or conflict going on. Please consider leaving a like and subscribe button because we do this every single day. We'd love to see you around.
How are they throwing gasoline? The fuck?
The only logical explanation I can come up with is that they didn't want to go through the flames with those tanks on them. But at first glance, it definitely looks suspect.
Does that even happen? How did it even happen?
With all the flying embers nearby, it wouldn't be too difficult for something like that to set ablaze, especially considering how dry it is.
Y'all can't tell me that ain't no phone. Look at this. Let's see what they talking about. Let's see what they gonna do. See what they right here.
It's not a lamp fixture. That's a ship in the sky.
Y'all, I'm right here in Oak Cliff, Texas, man. What is that?
What is that?
Tell me what that is, y'all.
It appeared to have some type of stationary propulsion system, or it could have been just sitting there spraying. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts below.
Well, you're seeing this moments after I saw it. The clouds just cleared, and I can tell
These
you
are all
this is the most
houses
devastating
burnt to a
event
crisp.
that I've seen. I've seen the earthquakes, all the fires here over the last 30 or 40 years, and we've never seen anything like this. This is Pacific Palisades, and the fire went through here, and it just took out thousands of homes all the way down to the shoreline. I mean, to describe it, really, it looks like a war zone. Now, the winds have died down a little bit right now, so they can make some progress. And as I mentioned, the smoke just cleared. This is the first time we're able to get in here and see the destruction. That's the village in Pacific Palisades. But as you can see, row after row after row, every single home burned right down to the foundation. Fortunately, this fire, we're not hearing about any fatalities. The other fire out in Altadena and Pasadena, we've had at least 5 people at one. Fortunately, everyone got out of this. But look at the devastation. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's hard to describe how bad this is.
This is all too familiar. It reminds me of what happened in Hawaii. I want to say that's a drone, but it was flying way too fast. You need to be a true animal lover to understand the severity of this. A cat is literally one of his children.
Nashville, Tennessee, that's the skyline over there. I'm going to see if I Nashville, Tennessee.
These are what are known as DEWs, directed energy weapons. In 1974, I was part of a group at the United Nations, an NGO called Alternative Technologies. And we developed many things that saved millions of people's lives that were very simple. Like in Africa, one of the biggest problems was potable water. And one of the environmental problems were these 2-liter soda bottles. They were everywhere, big, just mountains of them. And I got the someone in our office to get me a bunch of those bottles. And I went outside and I got the most brackish water I could find. And I put the cap on and I put the bottle in direct sunlight for a day. And then I had an empty bottle that was relatively clean, had a funnel, had some cheesecloth, and I slowly poured that water that had been in the sunlight for a day. And I kept all the gook at the bottom, and I kind of poured the clearest part of that water into this 2-liter thing and put the lid on and put it in the sun. After 4 days of doing that every day, that fourth bottle was totally potable. We got UNICEF to go through its entities in Africa and show people to do this. We saved 5 million people's lives over 2 years. And then, slowly, what happened was the manufacturer of those plastic bottles put something in the plastic to keep the UV from penetrating the plastic. And the people went back to dying. And that's when I kind of left. But being in that entity and being part of Cooper Union's alternative technology department, we were the first crew, and we took over all of 10th Street, and we put wind turbines and photocells and digital. We developed digital electric meters, so when the sun and wind was blowing, it was selling electricity back to Con Ed, and then when it was night and the wind wasn't blowing, Con Ed, so cut the electric bills by 80%, right? You do that to a whole city. This is New York City. And Con Ed fought our little entity that was doing that, Newton Tail. And I would get involved in these things, help them get started, get them up and running. And then I was not the guy who wanted to be there and spend the rest of my life fighting at one fight. I went on to the next fight. And I got involved in many esoteric technology entities. Like the best one is the U.S. Psychotronics Society, right? And that was a really interesting clearinghouse for everything technological, Tesla, everything poltergeist, everything alternative, and things that went bump in the night. And what was that, And so we did a lot of that, and that's why I met people like Bill Cooper, right, and Jordan Maxwell, and many, many others. U.S. Psychotronic Society. U.S. Psychotronic Society. Research in psychotronic United States. That was us. Fourth annual USPA conference. That was us. United States Psychotronic Association. See what YouTube has to say about that. Oh, they only have 365 subscribers. No, here it. Oh, look. I actually was at this.
The biggest
conference.
decision that you have to make in your Medicare coverage is really deciding between the two primary Medicare insurance systems. That
This time, Robert Beck.
Okay. Hello. How is it in the back row? I'll stay away from the feedback. Maybe I better just hold this and
Okay.
run with it.
The other way or something.
Is this the take it off now? This hard way. I've been having a hard time hearing in the back, and I suspect I'm not the only one. Is this better? Okay. I've entitled this very brief presentation. I say brief because normally this is a one-day workshop that Paul Andrews and I have been doing in Los Angeles. I've entitled this Occult Influences in Health and Disease. And I'm using the word occult in the strictest, most rigid dictionary of occult historically has been simply hidden from sight. The more recent meaning has had something to do with magic, witchcraft, metaphysics, etc. A perfect example of an occult influence in health and disease would be the Middle Ages, before Pasteur and Koch had done their work in hence proving with the compound microscope that little bitty living organisms, germs, microbes, bacteria, had been the cause of the deaths of half of the population of Middle Europe throughout the Middle Ages. The germs, bacteria, microbes, and today viruses are by definition occult simply because you cannot see them with the naked eye unless you have a massive colony you can't smell them, taste them, feel them, etc. I'm suggesting, and I think we have ample proof, that some of the most profound modulators of human well-being, mood, health, etc., are going to be found, have been found in the electromagnetic spectrum. And we're going to not just talk about what some of these things are today. I too am a theoretician, but I come from the position of what good is all of this knowledge, all of the information, all of these formulas, if we can't reduce them to this in tools that can make our lives better here and now. And instead of talking about perhaps the influences that are affecting us, be they psychic, physical, electromagnetic, chemical in the forms of pollution, ad nauseum, unless we have the tools to measure these, detect them, see what they are, define them, give quantitative parameters to the influences. Number one, we will never get the agreement of our establishment colleagues, and number two, we are probably just kidding ourselves.
And that's why,
So after the background material,
after 10 years of going to things like that and doing research and having a practice, a medical practice, and this was in the 70s when no one cared, I was basically considered like a physical therapist. I worked at the VA. I was, I would say, anyway. So that's been my life. The blessing of my life is that I've always kind of been right at the cutting edge of whatever's going on, or being at a place. I was talking to this guy who was managing a big supermarket, and he came from the Boone, Asheville, Johnson City neck of the woods. And when I was in Asheville, being the dude artist, he was in high school. Right? And now he's a big time, corporate guy and running a whole regions full of supermarkets. And he was out there like putting, you know, labels on cans. And most, corporate managers don't do that. But he said, well, the lady who was doing it, she got sick, and the other person was not trained to, and it needs to be done. And so I'll take 20 minutes and do it, and it's no big deal. So we had a really nice conversation about, because he was right at that really interesting point where he saw what the world used to be like. Like he graduated, I think, in '96 high school, maybe mid '90s, and so he had an interesting point. And now this whole area is, doing what is going on in Florida. What you don't realize, kids, is that Mr. Rothschild owns virtually all of the utilities in the world, and he can use them any way he wants. And the other interesting thing was when the United States changed its motif in 1972 with the oil embargo, right? Basically, America changed. We stopped being, a not a corp. We became a corporate state. I mean, we were, a plutocratic state, and we became a corporate fascist state, and that's where we are now. And they're just going through these motifs of severe physical change. And right now, like today, it was 20 degrees during the day, right? It was 8 degrees last night. We used up half of our heat in the last week and a half. We have about half a month's worth of juice left, right? And we'll probably get another, month and a half worth of gas, and hopefully that will last us to mid-March, and we will, then it'll get warm. But everyone is so set on themselves, so set on their own, whether their latte is hot enough, or et cetera, And it's an interesting thing. Okay, I might just do this. I have to go hit the facilities. Nature is calling.
So after the background material, which you'll see, give quantitative parameters to the influences. Number one, we will never get the agreement of our establishment colleagues. And number two, we are probably just kidding ourselves. So after the background material, which you'll see basically in the form of color slides, we're going to demonstrate the Crusader Rabbit Ghostbuster kit and show you a few little instruments, many of which you can purchase at Radio Shack for under $20, many of which you can build for under a couple of hundred, that will make you extremely popular with your local police department, environmental protective agency, health physicists. Some of these tools are outgrowths of the devices that I built that I used in Eugene, Oregon at the time of the original woodpecker flap, 1977-78. At any rate, we are at the interface between tomorrow's medicine and the establishment medicine. If you are interested in looking at real state-of-the-art technology in electromagnetic medicine, I sincerely advise that you get a hold of the book, The Body Electric by Dr. Robert O. Becker. How many of you have seen this, heard about it? Oh, this is a marvelous audience. This man was nominated for a Nobel Prize 4 years ago, but he was too outspoken. He was sort of put aside because, like many of us in the USPA, he had called the establishment on its act. He had said the power lines were causing problems with mental and physical health. And in my opinion, Robert O. Becker is one of the saints of this age. By the way, I was deeply honored last October to meet with a number of people who are interested in electromagnetic health. We're developing a prototype of an electronic device, basically an outgrowth of Robert O. Becker's work. Get this, that instead of growing arms and legs back on vertebrates, restored brain and neuronal tissue. Now, what's the matter with this? It's no longer a scientific or medical problem. The reason that this might never be seen on the market is that what are we going to do with these geriatric people after we have restored their minds and bodies to health? The reservation of this group was that this will wreck Social Security. It will put an undue burden on welfare, on retirement funds, on insurance policies. And although much of this technology exists now today, we may never see it because of socio-political problems, not because of the scientific impracticality of the technology.
Have you ever dreamed about living in glorious harmony with nature and like-minded individuals, going off-grid and being self-sufficient, but you just can't figure out where to begin? Too many people are stuck in the rat race, spending thousands every month on rent and food and bills, while their dream of an eco-village life slips away. What if I told you that you could transform from being an exhausted urban dweller to a vibrant member of a sustainable and thriving community? So many people today feel trapped in their 9-to-5 jobs, stuck in a perpetual cycle of earning and spending, longing for a life where they live in harmony with nature and fellow humans, but not knowing how to achieve it. The modern society's push for us to be unconscious consumers is not in sync with our natural state of being, leaving many feeling deeply frustrated and alone. But what if there was a different way? What if you could live in an interdependent community with like-minded individuals, co-creating an abundant world with sovereign sources of food, water, shelter, energy, and currency? This isn't a pipe dream, but a living, breathing reality. That's where the Off-Grid Dream Life event comes in. This unique online event lays out a roadmap to living your dream of creating or finding a Garden of Eden-style eco-village. By offering guidance and forming a clear vision of your dream life, crafting a plan to turn this dream into reality, and connecting you with a supportive and energetic community sharing the same future vision, our event equips you with the essential paradigm shifts to adapt, grow, and thrive in this new lifestyle. Don't just take our word for it. Hear from those who have already made the leap, like Deborah. After joining our community, she went from feeling alone and misled to truly living her dream, surrounded by a loving, like-minded community. And she's not the only one. You're going to hear from plenty of people at the event who've already started turning their dream into reality. We've already welcomed 30 residents into our first fully functioning eco-village, and now you can too. Our village isn't a concept, it's a success. It's attracting conscious individuals from all walks of life. Whether you want to create your own community or find one that's already working, this is the event for you. Stop dreaming and start living. Turn your vision into reality. Secure your spot in our upcoming live Zoom event, and you're going to be one step closer to realizing your dream of living in an interdependent community with like-minded individuals. This is your chance to create a life of independence, sustainability, and abundance. Together, we can co-create a world that respects nature and celebrates community. Don't miss out on this life-changing opportunity. Click the link to secure your spot at our upcoming live Zoom event, and I look forward to seeing you there.
Quinn Talon watched his own teeth scatter across the courtyard. He counted 3 molars as they bounced off the concrete, leaving tiny crimson trails in their wake. The two senior cadets laughed as their superhero strength tossed him around like a broken toy. He spat blood and assessed the damage. Even breathing hurt. Physical combat training meant nothing against superhero power. The bigger cadet stomped toward him, hands glowing with energy. His partner circled from behind, crackling with electricity. There was no escape. It made Quinn feel like an ant facing giants. To everyone else, he looked powerless. It was a death sentence here because everybody, and he meant everybody on this planet, had supernatural abilities. If you weren't born with them, you bought genetic enhancements to get them. The first cadet sneered. Time to put you down, weirdo. Quinn's supposed friend watched from the sidelines. Just stay down, dude. You can't fight the superhero cadets. Quinn could barely move. Sunlight drained whatever strength he had left. The big one leaned in close. Any last words? Then something strange happened. As Quinn's blood dripped onto his tongue, an unfamiliar hunger stirred in his gut. His vision sharpened. The other cadet's face went pale. What's wrong with his eyes? The first cadet stepped back. What a freak! They're turning red. They retreated hastily, leaving Quinn trembling on his knees, fighting a bizarre craving that demanded more than just his own blood. The school bells chimed, signaling it was time.
Oh, yes.
Two assholes left. Quinn was grateful. He quickly toweled off and
Everyone has their own special power. Right? So let's see if the phone works. It was working, and then it started really freaking out last night. Then it kind of worked this morning, and now it's not working that much anymore. Anyway, so let's see. Oh, Chris.
We've trashed our economy. We've deindustrialized them.
Chris.
The American empire is coming to an end.
Welcome to Ideas. I'm Rachel Giza, sitting in for Paul Kennedy.
Overseeing this descent at the highest levels of the federal and state governments is a motley collection of imbeciles, con artists, thieves, opportunists, and warmongering generals. And to be clear, I include the Democratic Party.
Christopher Hedges is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and the author of America, The Farewell Tour, a book which dissects the body politic of American culture and whose prognosis is unambiguously stark.
Short of a sudden and widespread popular revolt, the death spiral appears unstoppable, meaning the United States as we know it will no longer exist in a decade, or at most, two.
Predicting the disintegration of America has been something of an industry among the chattering classes for a while, and it's accelerated in the last couple of years. But after the Sandy Hook school massacre, in which 20 children were fatally shot, Hedges wrote an article in 2013 for the Walrus magazine, where I happened to be working at the time. That article was uncanny in the way it looked ahead at the America which was to come. In it, he quoted the late American philosopher Richard Rorty, who said, and I'm quoting here, that when America's breakdown begins, the gains made in the past 40 years by black and brown Americans
and by homosexuals will be wiped out. Jocular contempt for women will come back into fashion. All the resentment which badly educated Americans feel about having their manners dictated to them by college graduates will find an outlet.
That was in 2013, and those words now seem prophetic.
Well, he wrote it even before then.
Yeah. Were they?
Well, there are intellectuals in the United States who understood what was happening, but they were pushed so far to the margins that their voices were not heard. Sheldon Wolin, for example, who we lost a couple years ago, taught at Berkeley and Princeton, wrote Democracy Incorporated. And these figures who as Rorty did, of course, called out the folly of neoliberalism were silenced in essence. That critique was just unpalatable across the mainstream. So I think the serious critics of culture, Neil Postman, they knew what was coming.
There have been other moments of deep division in crisis in America, the Civil War, the Great Depression, the Red Scare, Vietnam, on and on it goes. What makes this particular moment distinct and different?
We've trashed our economy. We've deindustrialized the country. We've allowed our economic system to be seized by global speculators. And that, coupled with the century-long assault against radical and progressive movements beginning in World War I, but with the Red Scare after World War I, the Palmer raids, we saw a reemergence of those movements and unions, because unions, like for instance the old United Mine Workers Union, didn't come back into existence until the 1930s when Roosevelt permitted it to come back into existence. So with the breakdown of capitalism, there was a resurgence, but we were still in an industrialized country. We still had factories. We still made things. And that's where you get this kind of golden period of capitalist democracy in the 1950s. But alongside that was a steady assault beginning with the 1948 Taft-Hartley Act, which makes it very difficult for unions to organize. You saw a chipping away of New Deal programs. Remember Roosevelt, with the massive unemployment, said if the private sector is incapable of providing jobs, then the government has to provide jobs, providing 12 million jobs.
I like Chris. I've bumped into him a good deal because we're both East Coast guys. But see, I never became an academic. And Chris was in that line. Then he became a reporter. And as long as he was reporting about Yugoslavia and about things happening in Chile and Venezuela and Central and South America and Southeast Asia, that was fine. But when he came back and started to talk about the wars that, after 9/11 and started to deconstruct that. Now, I had been doing that since 1973. When the oil embargo came, I kept telling people, listen, this is a scam, right? They are they're getting rid of they're changing America. We're all only going to be like the Roman plebeians, it's just going to be fast food and television. And that's where we are, to the point where we don't even have TVs anymore. We have these things. This is basically when I was at Cornell between 88 and 91, and they were building the Star Wars Math Center. All the buildings in Cornell look like these beautiful 18th century English Tudor stone, university facilities. But that building, the Star Wars building, was like a 20-story black. You couldn't tell the difference between. It was just it looked like this. It was reflective. There were no windows. It was just a reflective surface, and it was about 20 stories high. It went above everything. And I went and was part of a number of study groups, and I was asked to, they showed, they brought out this briefcase, and it was, chained to some guy's wrist, and he opened it up, and this thing was in its foam cover, and the guy took it out and handed it to me, and it didn't even have buttons. This has buttons on the side. The thing it had no buttons, right? It was like even more sophisticated than this thing. And this thing is, this is 5 years old. So we are in a this null zone, right? And it's happening very quickly. When the empire goes through a rebranding / fall, the empire can be around 400 or 500 years. The United States empire really, our constitutional empire, has only been here for a scant 250 plus years, give or take. And we are about to go through a real deep change. Right? And the only thing you can do is be true to yourself. If you go into drugs, into addiction, self-loathing, or religious cult. And virtually every religion that runs itself through ceremony is a cult, right? Especially if there's a hierarchy, the minister at the top and the deacons and right, especially if those guys can only be guys, not women. So it's going to be very interesting, right? Let us see if we can make a call. There we go.
Your call has been forwarded.
No, she's too busy. Most people are, whenever it goes straight to that, meaning they don't want to talk, they don't want to listen, they want to be able to just be in the cult. Right? And when people can't have, like the other night, I had my friend who's a scholastic, and he's all about international affairs, and he's been following it and involved in it at least 50 years, give or take. Oh, no. And and that was last night, and we talked about a lot of different stuff, and it was interesting. Right? Give this another shot.
Albert.
Well, there I am. Hey, sweetie, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, I'm at non-disclosed the center here, and I'm not in the deep green because it's really getting cold, or has been cold for the last 3 weeks, and
Right.
single digits during the night, and like today, it was a nice day, but it was 20 degrees. So the snow we had this weekend, which was about 6 inches, it kind of melted, but not really, And wherever there's no sun, there's black ice. So I'm not really going
So, well, I was, I haven't heard from you, and I was watching your weather and saw that, obviously it's been very cold there and snowy, and so I was hoping you went to the center.
Yep. So I've been the caretaker because we've had a number of people who've been living rough, and so they came here and stayed, but we had no beds. But we had tons of bedding, so we put it on the floor, and that's what I've been sleeping on. It's not hard. It's not, it's like the Princess and the Pea, right? So, yeah, it's a concrete floor, but my biggest problem is it's not so much me sleeping on concrete. It's getting off the concrete in the morning.
No, I get it. I get it.
I'm like only about 4 inches off the concrete, and
right.
Like I said, it's I'm sleeping on cardboard, and then about 4 or 5, and then I'm got a nice comforter on top of me, and so it's comfy. I can go to sleep, and it's not bad, but it's climbing up a wall to get off the floor. But whenever you experience things of that nature, you can take it one of two ways. Like, I don't deserve this. This is terrible. Or you go, well, listen, I got to stand up. Thank you, Jesus. And you can either see it as an opportunity to motivate yourself to do things that are difficult, or you whine and cry, and that's what I'm seeing our country doing mostly, is whining and crying. No one's really stepping up to do the good work. So how is Texas doing? You still
What?
there? You still
Did
there?
you say?
I said, how is Texas? I mean, you guys, we are used to cold and snow, even though, I've been here 25 years. So when I first got here, yeah, this was normal, weather. And I would, December, I would go to Florida until March and I'd come back. But I don't do that now. So I'm here all the time. So, but for the last 4 years, we've had a pretty warm winter, like 40 degrees during the day and maybe 20 at night, and half the time 60 degrees during the day. And so it's the last, I think people got spoiled for the last 5 years. And this is, so the old timers go, this is nothing. 1991 was terrible, and it was. When I was in Asheville, we had a snowstorm that was like 20 feet. But Texas never gets this kind of cold, and you are starting to get that kind of cold, right?
No, not at all. It gets cold every summer. I mean, every winter. Yes.
But
yes.
you haven't
It's not
gotten
cold.
those
It's not even cold. It's just 40, 50 degrees.
Oh, you haven't had anything like in the 20s or the teens or any of that?
No. No.
You didn't get any snow or ice?
No. None.
What parts of Texas got snow and ice?
Well, Texas is a big state.
I know.
Geographically. Dallas, I think, up in that North Texas, got some snow, but not down in Austin. No, we got nothing.
So you're closer, and is Austin considered southern Texas?
No, it's central Texas.
Central, but it is considered western, right?
Yes, I mean, ish. Western-ish.
Yeah, Western.
I mean, it's that, I mean, the bottom line is you would say that it's southern because it's about 2 hours from the Mexican border, but
right.
At El Paso, but again, it's so big. I mean, it's not Western, really.
Right.
Not really. It's really considered central Texas.
So okay, you're considered central Texas. Okay.
Right in the middle there.
But and how close are you to Austin?
Georgetown is close. It's about 30 minutes.
Yeah, okay. Because I when I can get on the internet, I can get into NOAA's modeling, and so Austin is always a place I see on the map, and I can look at. Okay, so when I look at that, because the computer models for weather are quite amazing. How they're really good at long distances, and they're really good in the next 3 days. They're fair in a 20-day period, where it can, like me, we have really been blessed in that we've been right on this edge. We've had the last big snowstorm we got, the guys above us, in the Ohio Valley, they got 20, 30 inches of snow. Yeah, we got 4 or 5 or 6, depending on where you were, what holler you were in. And so so the last 3 big snowstorms, we kind of lucked out. The first 2 big ones, we only got an inch or 2, and it got warm, warmish enough to melt it the next day or 2. The stuff that we got Friday and Saturday is still here, even though it's been sunny. It's just been 20 degrees, and it just, unless it's, if the wind is not windy, and that wind chill really gets you. So but it's interesting. So we got a big truckload of heaters. So we've been what we try to do is to get the other churches to come to us, and we give it to them, and then they give it to their people. And it's like it's really hard. It amazes me. We want to give you $1,000 worth of heaters, and you want us to like come to your church and give it to your people. You don't want to come. It's like it's amazing how, like I said, I've been watching just people thinking that they are special, that you have to, treat them special. It's like it's not the team spirit is waning, right? Yeah, but you guys, that's what you do. You do this, And I said, no, we're a team, right? So you're part of the team. So come and get the stuff and give it to your people. And it's quite interesting to watch this. And so we have quite a Mexican or Hispanic community, but they're very invisible. You really don't see them. What you do see is that in the last 10 years, the majority of the new businesses have been started by Mexican people. They come here, and they're all American citizens, meaning because this place has been a big farm area forever, there have been families been coming here for generations. So there are a lot of people who get born here, and but it's like a sprinkling because they go back to Mexico too, and come here, go back, and that was they would get visas to do that. Now politically things are so Anyway, so this week, last few weekends, most of the people who gotten stuff from us have been Hispanic folk, and they come in not just 2 and 3s, but like whole groups of a family, like 3 brothers and their wives and their kids and grandmas, and so there's 12 to 20 people in 3 cars, and it's kind of funny because I understand Spanish relatively well. I can kind of speak Spanish. Have you learned Spanish?
No.
No. Anyway, so I can listen to them, and it's the same with those guys. Those kids who are going to school here and then and been here for the last, they're like in 7th grade and they've been here since kindergarten. Anyway, so there's one little girl. I got talking to her. So what do you like in school? Da 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 da. And she was telling me, and so I say, so okay. So they've gotten a lot of baby stuff. We gave them a bunch of heaters. We had a ton of coats, so we were giving them coats and shoes, and all this is like all new stuff, not like stuff out of people's closets. And so they're like kind of pretty amazed, and we're giving them this stuff. And so this little girl and her mother looks like she's 12 years old too. And so I'm talking to them, and they realize that I can understand Spanish, but not speak it too well. So they speak English. So we're talking, and basically all the guys, there's Tyson chicken things just on, we're right on the border of North Carolina. So they're over there. They basically have gotten places in the deep woods where they have all gone. And so, the only way they're going to be found is with drones or satellites. And they said, well, we're getting all this stuff. And we gave them a lot of canned food too. So they can hang out there and see what America is going to do once Donald gets sworn in. And so it's really, so I said, so how many people in those 4 factories are, going to not show up to work on next Tuesday, a week from this Tuesday? And the guy said, oh, maybe half of the factory workers. So that means those 4 Tyson chicken factories that cut the chickens up, they are going to close, right? And kind of like they closed. Well, they didn't even close for COVID. Those guys kept working all during COVID. And other people. So I know, so in our supply chain, we're connected to a lot of like Kroger's and Ingles and Food Line. Give us a lot of stuff that gets dated because we can get it out right away. And so we get a lot of stuff from them. So I was talking to this one manager of this whole area, and he said about 20% of his workers in not just his stores, but within the supermarket chain thing have gone, have just kind of disappeared. And he said there's a real difficulty on continuing the supply chain. He says if it gets worse, it's going to be pretty. And he says it'll kind of appear like a flip of a switch around February. And so I'm watching all of this stuff kind of the chunks of the neoliberal plutocratic state fall apart. And every empire falls apart like this. It's been around for a real long time, and then it just falls apart. And so I'm like watching it real time. And because I am in such a rural area, certain things are very, I can observe them very clearly. And so anyway, so it's kind of like that, and it's going to be interesting, that's for sure. And like, do you have any friends in California, in Southern California?
No.
So I have a number of people I know who are there, and they are observing, and they're the same.
I mean, the answer, Al, excuse me. You just go on and on and on. Yes, Al, I do, but it's pointless. I mean, I put clothes together and brought them to a boutique in Austin on Sunday that is driving stuff out. I have friends. They're in real estate. It's a mess, Al. It's pointless. It's just anyway. I have nothing else to say. It's all I'm saying. What you just said about your chicken, I've heard you say it before. Everything it's about prayer. It's about leaning and trusting the Lord. Nothing has changed in thousands of years. So again, the number one commandment is do not have strange gods before me, and it's just trusting and leaning on Him.
Well, that's for sure. And it's so easy for people to have a belief structure, and they don't really realize that it's a false god.
Correct.
And I mean, you don't have to have some guy in a weird outfit and have a golden calf on roller skates to have a false god. It's virtually anything.
Well, exactly. I mean, we could break it down. It's pointless, but it's again, anyway, it is what it is. And it is just being, walking with, faith, the word, really digging into the word, knowing the word of God, and sharing love. I mean, the fruit of the Spirit, sharing that with others in every way you do. How many people are sleeping in that place tonight, Al?
Tonight, what happened was, so I've been cooking, so we don't have that much fresh stuff. It's kind of a lot of canned stuff, and I'm very creative with that. So we had, like, when it really snowed hard last weekend, and it got really cold a few days of that week before, we had maybe 10 people here. And we had, and we're not set up to do this. We just did it because they had no place to go. And so,
Exactly.
Right. So, and the old ladies with the clipboards, we can't let them go steal us blind. And I said, okay, I'll be the caretaker. I'll be the den mother. So we had, like 3 weeks ago, we had a big rainstorm that wiped the people who were just starting to, have a tent and a bit. We gave out a bunch of big tents, and they got washed out. And so at our height, we had maybe 30 people here who were white, and they were not like connected. Whereas the Hispanic folk are a real community. And so they didn't need to come here because they went off And in the last 4 or 5 months, I've gotten property and basically built things that will protect them, and they have heat, and they have really hardworking. When the guy was telling me, yeah, well, we got enough firewood for this, and when the white collar people, they are so damaged, they couldn't even think about doing that. And they're basically have this attitude of, you need to take care of us. It's like, what do they call that? When you think you are, it's owed to you. And so it's interesting to try and talk to them. And I try to talk to them through the verse of the Bible. And, we got tons of Bibles everywhere, and they don't want to study it. They don't want to look at it. There's no TV here. I said, yeah, there's no TV here. So they kind of all left when it got a little bit warm the other day. I have no idea where they went. But we had at the height, we had about 30. And then it quickly, once the sun came out 2 weeks ago, but it was still kind of cold, they found other places. And so we had maybe about, the last group we had was maybe 6 or 7. So now there's nobody. So everybody found some place to go. And so, but we were here for that 2 or 3 week period where, they got wiped out again, and they had no place to go. So me and a few other people
So
who.
have you?
Yes.
Finish your point.
No, I was just going to say, there's a number of people in the two churches who are more empathetic. They're not like saying, "Oh, they're not like it." They don't really look at people as the other, because a lot of people do. I mean, when the event it affected everyone and wiped everyone out. It was amazing how that other motif went out the window. It was just everyone was neighbor, right? And so it was interesting to watch. But it's kind of going back to the old normal, but it's the new normal, and people don't see how things have changed really, because they're so back to work and back to doing this and back to doing that, and the basketball games and the blah blah blah. And me, I'm not, I don't go anywhere really. And during the day, we have we were open 24/7 for the first 6 weeks, and then we cut it down. Now we're open Monday, Friday, and Saturday, and that's good enough. So and everyone has enough stuff until the thing, the very fragile web of the social structure breaks again, and then it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I have a warm place, got enough canned food and chips, and but I have been very disciplined about my diet, because if I eat just crap, my body is very sensitive. So actually, I'm getting better. I've lost 10 pounds. I'm looking really trim and thin, and I have a lot of problems with my joints and bones and this and that. But having to walk on the concrete and up and down stairs, it's actually, and I'm like a barometer. When the fronts change, then when things get sore. But when things are kind of the same, like the last 4 days, the weather is basically not really changed barometrically pressured or temperature. It's really cold, and it can be gray or it'll be sunny, but it really hasn't been raining or any of the above. So it's so I'm doing pretty good, and we changed. We put a bunch of hot water heaters in for people's houses. The last 2 days, we got a truckload of hot water heaters, so I wired up a bunch of those, and so there's a group of guys that they all had jobs, and they're not quite my age, but they're semi-retired, and so we are doing that, and their wives are doing running the joint, right? The ladies, I call them the ladies with the clipboards, and so And I'm here for when, so we don't have the big crowds we used to. So we don't have the big emotions that we used to have big time. And, or the crisis management. But it flares like, the last 2 weeks, the people staying here, that was kind of structurally stressful on the ladies with the clipboards. But, worked out okay. So that's kind of how it is. And so I'm like got a front row seat on watching the whole thing do its thing. But I get a lot of quiet time to pray. Like I said, we got a truckload of Bibles, so that they're all, I have them opened at different verses all over the place. If you sit down, there's a Bible that you can pick up, open at a verse, and so that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm not,
Well,
yes, you go. I can
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
well, like you said, I can just keep talking. So whenever there's a lull there, just jump in.
So low. Okay, that's pretty difficult. But all I was going to say is I went to New Jersey and for Christmas, and very concerned about Mary.
Wow.
Very.
Well, she's
And,
old. She's going to die. It's kind of what it is.
Albert, that's a third statement. Okay. Of course, we're all going to die. That is not my point. She's let the old woman in, and it's disgusting. It's just tragic. So that's all I just wanted to say.
What's tragic about the old woman?
Gabrielle and Francesca and Alex, well, they all are aware. But again, it's, that staircase, we've discussed this, you and I, many times before, but very, 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 very not good, all of it. So I won't be going back. I'm not saying I won't see her again, but I can't stay at the house. So.
One of the reasons why Mary's lungs are the way they are, and also Roger's, is that house is like, built in the 50s.
Exactly, Al, it's 100%. None of the reason I'm not going to stay there, but
right.
But again, she's in such denial of everything, and it's just really tragic.
So that's the American culture, and where she lives.
Al, I'm not saying I don't want to debate the American culture. I agree, but I'm just saying it's just very sad to see her. When she's decided not to drive, she let the old woman in, but he won. He's wanted to control her forever because he's jealous of her family, and they can't stand him. And, it's just a bad situation. So anyway, just was checking in, reporting in.
Right. So, I talk to her at least twice a month, and the one person I'm concerned about is our brother, because he's, I haven't spoken to him. We used to speak a lot. I haven't spoken to him maybe 4 years, and I always leave a sweet little message to him at least twice a month on his phone, on his voicemail. And I never get it. And I text him on that phone number and say, hey, you may not find the time to talk to me, but, and then I give him my email, and I never hear a word from him. So.
Yeah, I don't talk to him, and I couldn't care less to talk to him, but when I was at Mary's house, she said, do you want to speak to him? I said, no. But he called her twice, I believe. So she doesn't work with him anymore, so I don't know why. I guess I have no idea why he would call her and not you. Me, I couldn't care less, but wonder why he doesn't answer, call you back after you leave a message.
Well, it's another one of those interesting psychodramas, and the thing is not to get caught up in them. So.
Oh, that's why I don't do any of it. Exactly. I'm just reporting to you. I'm not saying I will never, because I'm going to be spending a lot of time in the next couple of years up in the Northeast, but in and out. But the point is,
have you? Yes. The point is,
just concerned about her.
right. Well, in all of us, we the more we can be have a conscious intent in the moment you are. Meaning, I am connected to God in the moment, not in the past.
Yeah, for sure.
And not in the future.
But let me interrupt you. I'm not saying you aren't, and I'm not saying I'm not. But if you were talking to Mary, she would say the same thing. And so, again, it's just tragic to. I'm not going to debate her spiritual connection. Every man has their own walk.
Right.
And so, meaning I observe things. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to be catty. I'm not going to go there. I could, but I'm not, because I'm just not. But on the other side of the coin, it's just sad to see. That's all.
Well, like I was saying, in Proverbs, there's in our lives, there's a time for
seasons.
Right.
You're talking about seasons.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm not the young guy I used to be.
No. I'm not even. Hold on. I'm not even. And I'm older than you. I'm not even talking about that. It's a mindset thing. They have dinner at 6. He makes the dinner. She can barely walk. She can't hear. They go from dinner to the lazy boys, watch
Whatever.
Not Jeopardy. Jeopardy.
Yeah. Whatever.
Wheel of Fortune and the Hallmark Channel. And I was there for 2.5 weeks. Now, I was gone a lot. I had a rental car and I drove around and stayed in Connecticut and Long Island and different things. But and she did that. But when I was there, and like the second week, the Hallmark stuff was repeating itself, and I'm like, we just saw this last week. Oh yeah, we watch them all the time. It's like, oh my God. And then by 8:30, she's asleep, and she on this lazy boy, and she goes upstairs. Yeah. And it's just so hard to watch. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Right. So, but you have to, if you are, as we grow older and we have our lives, you either plan out your life like mine. Where I live now, 340 days of the year, it's like heaven. It's like really a beautiful spot. It's just, right. And like I said, I've only been there. I've had the place 25 years. I've only really spent 5 winters there, the last 5 winters. And the last 4 were no big deal. This is the first really cold, and this really isn't bad. I mean, we could have serious, like I said, right on this line, below everything was ice and it was ridiculous, and everything above us was like 2 feet of snow. So it's not that bad. And I have a community that I can be. But see, I chose, I don't watch television, I have no internet in the deep green. I have any of that kind of stuff. Now I can go on, I can come here or I can go to a restaurant or 2, I hang out. But that's going to be a little tough because the ones that were close by to me were wiped out by the storm in September. And, but I chose this lifestyle that actually keeps me healthy, keeps me sharp because I read books. I read the Bible all the time, and I write a ton. I write a lot. And and I email my stuff out to all different kinds of people, and so it's not just in my laptop. I've got it out amongst hundreds of people, so it's out there. It might get out and published someday, or somebody will read it. I mean, a lot of people are reading it, but you know what I'm saying. I don't write basically, oh, I'm going to be a famous author. I don't write. I write because A, it keeps my brain sharp. B, I like writing. And C, it's my version of talking to God. All my essays and stories are basically a dialogue with God. And it's very much informed by the Bible. So, because I slip a lot of the Old and New Testament into my storyline. So anyway, so I made a choice to do that, and so I don't go out to restaurants a lot. I don't, I live very nicely on very little amount of money. People can't believe how well I live on not that much money. People don't you worry about. So one reason I'm here is because my average electric bill is $25, but if I was down there December, my electric bill for that heat was $100. That's like way outside my budget. That's like 1/6 of my monthly budget. So that's why I'm here. That's one of the motivations. But the two roads into my place are really a mess because they're always in the shade. Everything's like a sheet of ice, and I don't have a 4-wheel drive. I just have a 2-wheel drive, and so anyway. But it always works out because I'm in the flow of whatever God wants me to do, and that's really the way to go. I don't worry about anything. Everything is I'm always I wake up and I say, okay, God, what do you got for me today? Something will come up, somebody will grab me, say, let's go fix this, or let's take care of Mrs. Jones this, or let me take you out to lunch, or hey, I have this meeting I want you to go to, and I want you to listen to what's going on, and you tell me what you think is going on. So anyway, so I have a very nice life. Really. And my medical, my doctors and all that, because the medical system is truly falling apart. But I have certain doctors who've taken care of me for the last 10 years. And I don't, whatever they can charge to Medicaid, that's fine. But I really get good health care, because these people know me. They know what I have and everything about me. And it's a joy when I show up and we have a good time. And that kind of relationship in the medical world really isn't there. So, but that's part of because all the people in the churches, they're messed up too. They've been eating, Burger King their whole life and blah, blah, blah. And their colons are terrible. And they really don't have very good health care. And they go there and they get operations, they get, this taken out and that part of their colon, stuff that, no, if you just change your diet or did this or did that. But anyway, but that's the medical model in America these days, profit. So, and profit is not a sustainable social value. And that's what's the beauty of this thing is that we are going to hit the wall relatively soon. And we will either wake up and change. And that's one of the better things about America is we've been in this position at least 8 times in the last 200 years. So it's not like, oh my God, no. It's been worse than other times. And so it'll be interesting to see if we can step up and rejigger ourselves back into a healthy community. That's the challenge. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, everything is pretty good here overall. It's going to get ridiculously cold next week. It's going to be nice between now and Sunday, and like Sunday evening, like around 8 o'clock, it's going to turn like a light switch, and it's going to rain Friday afternoon, Saturday, and Sunday morning, but be in the 40s and 50s. So whatever ice and snow is here will go away. But we're going to have 3 big storms, and it's going to go like minus 20 degrees during the day and minus like 2 at night. And there's going to be some wind too. So it's going to be, now where I'm at, as long as we can, the amount of gas we have in the tank will be fine until mid-February. Hopefully this thing that's going on will change, because that's what weather patterns do. They do their thing over and over, and then they change, right? A little something changes, and then it changes. So I can't see this really staying like this through no later than my birthday. You know, that would be a nice birthday present if it changed and was like 35 at night and 50 during the day, which is basically the normal temperature for the winter here. So we could go back to that. That would be nice. And then I could go back to the deep green and start getting ready to, all summer I was going to clean my place up to get ready for winter. So, didn't do that. And so now, if the weather gets a little warmer for February and it doesn't rain or snow, I'll be able to get ready for spring. But overall, the place is in pretty good shape. I mean, I just left it. I didn't really prepare it like I used to when I went to Florida. I would turn everything off and batten down the hatches. I just kind of locked things up and turned things off and got out of there. So we're going on now. I've been here now 2.5 weeks. This time, what is today? Tuesday? Right. So next Tuesday, I'll be here for 3 weeks. And so that's about it. So that's my report. Everything's pretty good. Everyone is in the crew is in good shape. The people in the churches are in pretty good shape. I keep talking about community and organizing, because have you ever been to Asheville? Like recently?
Albert, what a silly question.
I mean, recently.
Of course not.
Okay. Well, when you used to fly into Asheville to go see mom and dad in Waynesville, Asheville nobody was there, right? The population at that time was maybe 45,000. It's now pushing 500,000. So it's like an ant farm. It's a hipster ant farm. And all of that is kind of, the real estate developers have bought up all this property, and the big event, enabled them to get more property. And the last big washout we had, washed out the last remnants of the Hoagie folk. And so this place is going to be developed like that, like Boone. When I first went to Boone, it was a cute little town, and now it's 40 times. And all these things are in the Sawtooth Mountain. In Texas, everything's flat. You can just keep developing out and out and out. Here, not so much. So it's there is a point where nothing can be sustainable. So I'll be able to watch that. That's probably going to happen in the next 5 years. And interestingly, my little holler, my little 5 mountain, Sawtooth Mountains, kind of are set up. That's why I bought it. It'll be one of the last places that will get developed, because it's like really steep, really up and down, and it's not right on the lake, and there is no real view, And so, I mean, there's a view of a tree there and a little bit of a mountain over there, but it's not like the big expanse and blah blah blah. So it's I'll still have what I have, but the roads are going to be another question. But anyway, it's like me observing what's going on. like as a sociologist, this is a very good place for me to be. And I'm writing about it. So, and I know all the people, the politicians and everyone who were cutting the deals and all that. And I have a front row seat. So that's where I'm at. And I've done so many things through my life. It's not like there's anything I wish I did that. Nah, I did it all. So I'm enjoying this part of my life. And Mary, I try to give her moral support about this, that, and the other thing. And every time she has a little medical thing, she goes, "Can you rake me from afar?" And I go, "Sure, no problem." And
what?
I Reiki. I'm a pretty good Reiki master.
I didn't understand what you just said. She says, "What did you say?"
Oh, over the years, like Mary gets cancer a good deal.
No. Stop. You said she asks. Did she? She asked you what? Can you do what over the phone? What did you say?
Do you know what Reiki is? Energy healing?
Yes, of course I do. Yes, but what did she say?
Well, every time she has a little medical thing, she goes, "Can you Reiki me?" I said, "Sure." I've been a practitioner of that for a good 60 years.
Well, she had pneumonia.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah.
The day of Christmas.
Yep, I know. I mean, I can feel her. When I go into prayer, I can feel almost anybody with the right energetic focus on. And yeah, I know she was ill in most of Christmas. I mean, you talk to her, you could hear it in her voice. It's like,
oh, sure. But the problem lies she can't hear you. So she's saying, "What did you say?" every other sentence. But because she can't hear, she talks so low that you can't hear her. So it's
we have a nice little homeostasis. She hears what I say, and I hear what she says.
Sure. Well, goody. Right. Goody gumdrops for you.
Yeah. So I have a pretty good, I can hear what she says. And now I can understand what you're saying. Good. Now she's got her phone in her hand, which is an amplifying device, and I have my phone, so it's in a lot of ways I can hear her better than if I was sitting next to her.
Exactly.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I can hear her.
Well, it's great that you can hear each other. Because when you're sitting there, you can't. I mean, you just can't. And Roger gets very
frustrated.
Perturbed. I mean, it's just really very, very challenging. Anyway.
No, I sense the energy the whole time. And the kids, over the years, I would call up on Thanksgiving and they really are so into their own lives, they're really not that interested in anything else. And so there is no real kind of conversation about anything. Like, so what book you were reading, or what movie did you see, or it's like they don't really have the time to have that conversation. Meaning, I don't really, I don't really get into
that. I don't know about that. They seem to. I'm not talking about a superficial get together when there's 30 people there, but they seem to be pretty plugged into her.
They're plugged into Mary. Mary is. I mean, that's Mary's family is almost like a cult in a lot of ways. And
I don't know what you mean by that, but
well, all her kids, they all live right next to each other. They're all
close by. I wouldn't say it's a cult. They like each other, and I mean, especially Gabby and Fran and Alex. They do things together.
Mm-hmm.
I went out with them. I had a lot of fun with them. Rick, Fran. Well, on Friday after Christmas, Fran. My girlfriend Tony Sharaba came from Northern Jersey. We had lunch not too far from where Fran and Rick live, and then Gabby and Kevin had gone into the city earlier, and so Tony dropped me off at Fran and Rick's house, and we drove into the city and met Gabby and Kevin for dinner. That was really fun. And we had dinner at a really lovely restaurant that Gabby does PR for. And so it was, a very nice restaurant regardless, but it was a great service. So it was fun. We had a great night. So, and then on Sunday, because Mary was sick, she didn't join us, but we being Gabby and her friend Carrie, who I'm sure you know, her mom Donna, we were going to go for tea, so to speak, at this tea place, and which Mary didn't join us. We did it, and then anyway, and then Carrie and her mom went home separately, and then we met Fran and Rick at this place. Excuse me, that Sam and Lucy work at restaurants, which is really fun. So I really enjoyed being with them.
Well, that sounds nice. Well, I just wanted to check in because I haven't really talked to you since you were on the road. Have you spoken to our cousins in the upstate?
Yes, I checked in with Barbara, and I'm actually have a scheduled call with Sue on Thursday.
I still would love to have their phone numbers. I still haven't received them.
Oh yeah, I'll do that tonight actually, since I'm here in my office working as I'm listening to you.
Right.
And
just you have my email address, right? You have my the dudeawake42@gmail, right?
Oh, I can't text it. Oh, I'm sorry. What? Hold on. I think that's why I haven't done it because hold on, Albert, please. Okay, what is your email again?
The dudeawake42@gmail. All one thing. The dudeawake42@gmail. All lowercase, all one thing. That's my email.
So there's a word THE before dude?
Yeah, the dudeawake42@gmail. That's my email. And you can also send it, text it to me on my phone number. And if, those are two different things. So if you do it on both of them, I'm sure I'll get one of them.
Okay, I will do it.
Right.
I will do it.
Yeah. Okay, sweetie.
Okie dokie, Smokey.
Right. So Barbara and our other Susan, I'd love to talk to both of them.
Mm-hmm. They're the only ones I communicate with.
Right.
But Sue, she's kind of the coordinator for the Reardon family.
Right.
And of course, Barbara. Barbara, her husband Paul, just recently had a knee replacement, and he had one done a while ago, and it did okay, and this one is not doing so well. And I wish they could have come to Texas and had stem cells in lieu of surgery. But anyway, but she's such a sweet gal. Really like her.
Yeah, I used to go when Aunt Mary was up there. Donna and I used to go up there all the time because there was Indian Point up there, and there were a couple other nuclear things that I would go and visit and talk to. Fark was up there, and we go to those hearings, and we'd stay with Barbara and her family, and we'd stay with Mary and Leo, and that was loads of fun. We'd take the train up there. That was always very fun.
Well, that was a long time ago.
Yeah. No, that was the 70s, 80s. Yeah. So but that was fun. Well, okay, kid, you sound a little. You want to go to sleep, so Love you.
I'm sorry?
I said, well, you're yawning there. It's time. It's past your Betty bar.
I haven't yawned once.
Oh, maybe.
Not once.
Okay.
Not once. I'm just sitting here listening to you.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just sitting here quietly listening to you. I'm wide awake. I'm doing lots of stuff like talking.
No. Okay. Well, okay.
Well, stay warm, and I'm glad you have that place, your center to go to. That's a real blessing.
It is. It is.
You know.
Like I said, I never have to worry about anything. God always takes care of me and puts me in a place where I can be used to the best of my abilities, and that's really the best kind of life you can have, one of service.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. That's really what my life is focused around.
Yeah.
And with and through. Yes, ma'am. Person.
Okay, honey bun.
Okay, honey bun. Will you take care of yourself?
Right.
I love you.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Anyway, so I thought that's my sister. That's my sis, and one of the 6. So there's only 4 of us left, and my oldest sister, she's pushing 90, and of course she's gonna be pretty old, and it's interesting about our bodies because they can get to a place where you're in pretty good shape. Like I was in pretty good shape all the way up to about 50, 55, and 55 would have been 2005, and I started doing the lawyer, working for the desperate corporate lawyers around 05. I did that until maybe 03, maybe even 02, somewhere in there. But I really got into it. I was doing it. I had my stream. So I had a really materialist, hedonist life, And God kept saying, no, this is good. You see what this is. Do it to the max, which I did, to the point that I got 500 pounds, And it burned out every organ and joint. And then I died, and then I came back, and I kind of rejuvenated myself, or God rejuvenated me. But I was following God's dictates, and so that's where I'm at now. So there are a lot of things that my medical model, they keep an eye on, and if I slipped off the wagon, they could help take care of that. But you just have to be in contact with God's love, and everything works out. So don't be too scared by, earlier. So how long has this show been going on? Where's my glasses? Let's see. An hour and 30 minutes. So the beginning part, I had this guy who's, I stumbled on him. He's in California, a black guy, and he really has a very interesting sense. And so I liked what his show was, so I kind of put it on there. And then talking, I said, all these esoteric things, and bang, I stumbled across a lecture that I helped put together, and there that guy was, right? I was looking for one where because I used to do the keynote speeches, right? But I got tired of it, and I left that whole scene. I mean, I have loads of friends who are still like what's his name? David Wilcox and David Icke. I know so many Davids, and David is special. He really is, because he is a guy. He's like world famous. He was one of the first people. I mean, other than a handful of us who were looking at what was going on in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, he really was the person. He started doing his shtick, and he wrote his first book around 91. And he really single-handedly put what we used to do the organizations, esoteric organizations. And that guy gave a very, it was like almost straight out of my mouth. And I would constantly, because we were in these, theologic societies, all the, and everyone's talking, oh, it's esoteric and occult. And all those words are Greek, esoteric just means hidden knowledge. And occult is like special hidden knowledge, And George Christie used to say to me, one person thinks this is magic, and that kind of magic to that person is actually this other person's religion, and this other person over here realizes that magic / religion is actually a science. And if people, that's like Christian scientists, they kind of realize that. So anyway, I was one of the few people. A lot of people were like had their little niche, and that's cool because in reality, you can't really. If you want to be famous or have notoriety or any of the above, you can't really have that unless you spend all your time just on that, right? And my interests are quite far afield. They're all interconnected. They all have a lot to do with energetics, energy, right? And I don't really. As an electrician, yeah, I used to do that as a. I made a very good living at being and through that I was a contractor and a real estate guy and all that stuff, right? And all of that kind of fortune in that and all the restaurants I had, all that stuff in New York was just because I was one of my greatest skill sets is to be in the right place at the right time. And I always pick up sticks and move on to the next, right? So this place, I bought, the place in the I actually the first time I came around here was in 1979, 1980, and no, actually earlier than that, 69 and 70. It's the first time I kind of cruised through here with Sweet Susie Q, and she kind of stuck around here. She was another friend of mine at the University of West Virginia at what's the name of that place? Morgantown, right? And I had a girlfriend there who was a DJ, and her best friend was going to school there and becoming a geologist. Like they have the big coal mining things, and she was all about that, and she was all about saving because all her uncles and brothers and fathers that were all like miners, and they're all dying of lung disease. So she had this engineering brain and this medical brain, and we really hit it off. And my DJ girlfriend, it was quite fun. We had a real a burning passion when we were with each other, and we always had so much space because I was like up in New England, and I would come visit her at least once a month, and spend whatever 2 days a week, a month. I would stay there, and within 5 days, we were always tight. We always really loved each other's company. We both loved reading books and talking about them, and she loved having me on her radio show. And it was late at night. She went from midnight to 6 a.m. And her Sweet Susie, she was her best friend. And so we were a quite an interesting trio. And when Susie got sick of West Virginia, she went to UNC, and then she, I think she got her master's in poetry or theology and poetry, where she had an engineering degree and a medical degree at the University of West Virginia. So this girl, she was quite the scholar scholastic. She was really, she could ace any test. She was one of those people that just, she could look at that. I tried to get her to use that skill set to win the lottery. And for some reason, she didn't want to do that. But anyway, so the three of us had a great relationship for a number of years. And then Marilyn, the DJ, she went to like Africa, or like she went just far, far away. So Sweet Susie, she had a gig at, so in 1970, I was down in High Point and over at good old Duke and UNC. And she came to UNC. And then she went off, she got a little grant. She got a gig to be a manager of a kind of motel right on over there on the shore of North Carolina, where the Wright brothers flew their airplanes, Kitty Hawk, and I used to hitchhike down there. So we had a really nice thing. And then she went to DC. So when I was in DC, again, that was another place I could just crash in her place, because she really had all the women in my life have been truly amazing individuals, right? That don't stick to that, what the patriarchal motif of a woman should be, right? And I was never, half the women I was with loved me sexually because I was a lesbian. They really appreciated the fact that I understood the female erotic anatomy. Anyway, and that's what I'm saying. My life has been one of extreme diversity and challenges, and just a real, because even when I'm dying or having a terrible time of it, I'm having a great time. I mean, when the people who were here last week, they left maybe 5 days ago, 4 days. All the days here run into the same. So it's interesting. So tonight wasn't a night that people really haven't been commenting much. How many? Oh, there's 5 people there. So how about some thumbs up? How about some, subscriptions? How about some, let's have I'm ready to. It's 1 hour and 48 minutes. I got it plugged in, so the battery's juiced up. Everybody's happy. We've covered a lot of stuff, so you got a lot of stuff to pick from. So ask me questions. Come on, tell me some stories. Hey, all, there's Fish. It's people. No, there's. And how about somebody making just a comment so I can see if you're making a comment? So do you guys ever watch Kim Iverson? She's got a good little thing there. And the WF show, that's what do they call that?
Hey, thanks for clicking on this. Yeah, I know, another compilation. And we normally put up compilations instead of an episode to give us a break and try to catch up, but that's not what this is. This is something different. You know what? This would be easier for my office. So let's go over there.
Hold on.
What?
If you're in your office, how am I supposed to get my airtime?
Well, you won't. This is just...
Hang on. If I may.
Go ahead.
Section 6, Part B, on-screen presence.
What's this?
My contract.
Oh, boy.
The talent, that's me, shall appear on screen in each and every episode of the series, that's the Y-Files, produced under this agreement. The talent agrees to make themselves available for production as required by the producer, that's you, human. Again, the talent shall appear in each and every episode. I rest my case.
That's why I like these guys. That's the
so if you don't let me be in this episode, you'll be in breach. Don't make me call my lawyer.
We have the same lawyer. I will.
Yeah, well, you'll still be in breach.
All right, do me a favor and read that last sentence again.
Oh, certainly. The talent agrees to make themselves available for production as required by the producer. So what?
So you miss productions all the time.
Oh, stop whining. I just don't show up for the sponsor ads. Big whoop.
Sponsor ads are important.
Sponsor ads are beneath me.
Not according to your contract. I'm leaving.
But Ferengi Rule of Acquisition 16 says...
It says a deal is a deal. I know, we already did the rules of acquisition bit.
Oh, right, for the Christmas song. Link below if you want to see that, by the way. I have a lovely singing voice.
That's debatable. By the way, did you know that Rule 16 was amended in the novel Legends of the Ferengi?
I will maintain that the 16th rule of acquisition, the most sacred of all Ferengi precepts, is a deal is a deal until a better one comes along.
It's really annoying that you're such a nerd.
Sorry, off I go.
I still think this is a bunch of bullshit.
Thank you. Anyway, the reason for the compilation is kind of an algorithm trick. Not just for the algorithm, but also for new people coming to the channel. Our last episode, I hit the government pretty hard with the dark side of DARPA. I mean, I really hammered them hard. And that episode is getting a lot of views, which I guess is good. But I also have coming up... Sorry, it's not a professional operation. I also have coming up...
It's a lot more professional than this.
Another government conspiracy episode where I hit the government really hard. And I don't want to be the government conspiracy channel. So I don't want the algorithm to think that's what I do. And new people coming over to the channel, I don't want them to just see a bunch of government conspiracy stuff. I'm not this government conspiracy guy. Just like I don't post a bunch of UFO videos in a row or a bunch of alien videos or all that stuff. I'm not the alien guy. I'm not the anything guy. I like weird stories. What do we call them? Mysteries, myths, urban legends. I like the stories. I like to try to find the truth in the stories and have fun doing it. I don't want to be put into a box. So that's why this compilation is here. It's just to kind of break things up with a little something different. So what are we doing? I gotta look at my words. Oh, okay. First episode is number 61. It's simulation theory, which I'm sure you've heard this by now, but it's the theory that everything, our entire existence, maybe even the entire universe, is just a computer program. And I don't know if it's even that controversial anymore, but if I had to bet, I'd say that we are in a simulation. Anyway, it's a short episode. I'll see you in a minute.
3 + 1 = 5 + 0 0.
Is this reality? Well, we're experiencing something right now, so maybe the better question is, what is reality? Could everything we see, everything we experience, everything that exists in our entire universe be artificial?
So this guy
Supporters
is...
of simulation theory believe that not only is it possible that we're living in a simulation, it's likely. And the more we look for evidence, the more we find. Let's find out why.
And it shows for Wi-Fi.
The idea of the universe being a simulation is not a new one. Theories exist in ancient cultures around the world. Modern simulation theory comes from Nick Bostrom, a philosopher at Oxford who wrote an influential paper on the subject in 2003. Assuming that living in a simulation is possible, Bostrom presents the simulation trilemma, which says one of the following must be true. 1, we destroy ourselves before we're able to create a simulation. 2, we're able to create a simulation but choose not to. Or 3, we are definitely in a simulation. Bostrom believes each of these is equally likely to be true. Now, I don't think that's controversial. We use computer models to study the human population, predict the weather, for entertainment. We simulate everything. And when a civilization can create a realistic simulation, the most obvious one to create is that of its own early existence. Bostrom calls this an ancestral simulation. And a civilization that can do this wouldn't just create one simulation, it would create many. And those simulated civilizations might create their own simulations of the universe, and on like Russian nesting dolls of reality.
Now, you're a character in that world and you think you have free will. You say, I want to invent a computer. So you do. Hey, I want to create a world in my computer. And then that world creates a world in its computer. And then you have simulations all the way down.
When Elon Musk was asked what he thought the chances were that our reality is the original base reality,
The odds that we're in base reality is 1 in billions.
Neil deGrasse Tyson is a little more conservative. He thinks the odds that we are in a simulated reality is 50-50. A 50-50 chance that everything we experience is artificial, that's still pretty high. And even though we mostly hear what scientists think about this, it's not scientific theory. Simulation theory isn't math, it's philosophy. It isn't physics, it's metaphysics. So what we need is hard evidence that we live in a simulation. And to find proof, all you have to do is look.
Okay. So he gets money for these guys in the game. Anyway. So now there's 3 of you there, right? Is there anything else? Let's see. You guys gotta carry your. That guy at least has a goldfish to like play off of. But you could see his whole basement is like his studio, or the whole building is his studio. It's his matrix, because he came from the set with all that stuff and everything, and he walked out into the hallway. Which, as he walked down the hallway, there were little alcoves with lots of TV sets of all different kinds of things going on, and keyboards. And then he went into his office that on one whole side was like the control room, and the other one was like the desk where he has his whatever, right? So that is the motif there, right? So do we live in a matrix? What do you think? Right? Okay. I'm going to break down and give Johnny a call. What Johnny Boy has to say. It's about 10 o'clock, so I might go to bed early-ish. Let's see. Let's say, Johnny Boy, this is Joe. See, the phone doesn't always work. No. Okay. We got my sis on the show. What did I do? I don't know if you heard that. which I'll have to see if that works. But it's an interesting thing. I keep telling, so the WF guy was going, "Are we in the Matrix?" Right? And so my postulation is, not are we only in a Matrix, but we're in a soap opera, right? And everyone's reading from the script. And so, California is the seventh largest economy in the frickin' world. And, Donnie wants to buy Canada. The real interesting thing I would love to see is California, Oregon, and Washington join Canada. Then they'd all have single payer health care. Canada would get a big boost in the economy because they would then be Canada's economy plus California and Washington and the other state would put them almost, either the second largest economy or the third largest. And because China is going to die, its demographics are so. Peter, my buddy Peter, what's his name? The globe-trotting economist slash. I mean, that's the kind of job I had. I was the itinerant scholar, and I did the same thing he did. In that, most people who have that kind of where you're going to study something, that they only study one thing, right? They got one little shtick, one little. But Peter he's a generalist, and that's what I am. So that's what Cliff High is too. But he's just Cliff is right. So it's an interesting motif, to say the least. Anyway, so here's California getting burnt to the ground, and what it's really doing is putting that whole state in the pocket of Mr. Rothschild. And the utilities are all owned by Mr. Rothschild. And I would say if it wasn't direct energy weapons from space that started these fires, it was, just like the other big fires were started by the electric utility companies' faulty equipment. And you mix in that part of California had more rain than they ever did up until last May. And then it got turned off like a faucet, and they didn't have any rain whatsoever from May until today. And so, had a lot of rain. Things grew up like you couldn't believe. Just woo! If you're ever in California, it's amazing. You put water on the ground there, and everything grows. And that's why they have all those fields of all those apricots and oranges and you name it, right? So a little ding. Who's a little ding there? Oh, good. See, she's a good girl. She gave me my cousin's phone number, so that's good. I can give them a call. So anyway, whatever's happening, it's definitely being orchestrated because it's just so much, just one thing after another, after another, after another. It's all big time distraction. And Donnie, he was going to, get everyone's eggs and bacon and price of home stuff down. Well, he's not going to do any of that. He said, "Oh well, this inflation thing is difficult. It's hard. I really can't do it." I mean, that was his number one thing that he ran on to become president. I'll fix this, right? And the war in Ukraine, within 24 hours, I'll take care of it, right? That's not going to happen. And in essence, he's going to screw it up to a point where basically he will disrupt the European Union and NATO to the point where they will become vulnerable to Vlad. And Vlad will try to take over all of Europe like Adolf. And again, Adolf was just reading from the script. It depends on what drugs that Vlad is taking at the moment. And but he's got a lot of nuclear weapons, and we're heading into a new nuclear age. And it's not just the Soviet Union, America that had nukes. Now, about 12 different countries have nuclear weapons. So we are right in the middle of this rejiggering of the planet into a new world order, right? And it's, going to be the NICP, Neo Insane Clown Party, So, and it's going to basically, as Chris Hedges was saying there, he was quoting from a guy, I forget his name, but it's on the show, where the guy said, all of the social movement that have moved forward for liberation and access and diversity for blacks and Hispanics and women and LGBTQ and every other group that has been coming in to be part of the community, not just white men. Well, the white men want to, go back to, 1918, and that'll be fun. Really be fun. It will. Our economy is already destroyed, and by forcing the United States into a, basically it'll be just like The Handmaid's Tale. Go read, Brave New World and 1984 and Handmaid's Tale and The Hunger Games, and that's what we will have in about 3 years. And it will be straight out of that scenario scene of the first show of Next Generation of Star Trek with John Luke. That first, thing at Firepoint Station, that thing, right, with Y or C or J or whatever that guy's name was. So it'll be quite interesting. And I have gotten myself to a point where I am the doula of God, which we are all meant to be, and there I am. So I don't have to. I've done so much stuff before, and if you want to know anything about it, ask me a question. I'll tell you a story. And that's what I'm here to do, is tell you a story. But no one's saying anything. There is a good 6 of you there. Come on, say something. There's only one person who gave a thumbs up. How about 6 more thumbs up and a few questions, right? But that's okay. I'll keep doing this until I don't. I have at least 2,000 different shows you guys can go watch, and put them on thumb drives, put them in your hard drive, put them on CD-ROMs, And I do this thing. Skip that. This thing. This thing.
Let's start at the beginning. There was no space or time. The contents of the entire universe were concentrated to the size of a tennis ball and had a temperature of a quadrillion degrees. Then suddenly, the Big Bang. Everything explodes outward faster than the speed of light. Then about 14 billion years later, we've got galaxies and planets and ice cream and K-pop. Ice cream. Yeah, I could do without the K-pop. Me too. Okay, if before the Big Bang there was no space and no time, what was there? What about the beginning of the universe from the religious point of view? God created everything. Fine. Where was he before? What caused the Big Bang to happen in the first place? What made God decide to snap his fingers or wiggle his nose or whatever he did to make everything happen? If you ask a physicist to explain what existed before the universe, they'll give you an answer about quantum foam, dark energy, or something just as bonkers as the Big Bang. Ask a theologian what existed
or religion,
and you'll get an answer equally as confusing. But what does make sense is that the universe was just sitting there dormant. Then someone somewhere decided to boot up a program. And in that program, our program, are all the laws of the universe. Electromagnetism and gravitational force are written into the program. The speed of light gets value. There's code for Planck's constants of mass, speed, and time. Avogadro's number is in there, along with a bunch of other rules that govern the behavior of everything that exists. All part of our program. Even consciousness itself is part of our simulation. If you've never heard of simulation theory, then this might sound far-fetched. But some of the world's most respected scientists, technologists, and philosophers believe that it is more likely than not that we are living in an artificial reality. So, how do we prove it?
What the fuck? What's under the hood here?
If we live in an artificial reality, it would make sense for there to be occasional glitches. Philip K. Dick is one of the most influential science fiction writers of all time. Movies based on his books include Blade Runner, Total Recall, Minority Report, The Adjustment Bureau, and plenty of others. He believed there are many universes, and sometimes those other realities bleed into ours. He claimed to have visions of this, and even wrote stories like The Man in the High Castle based on these visions.
That in fact plural realities did exist with one another by film transparency.
One way other realities blend into ours could be the Mandela effect. The Mandela effect is when a large number of people have memories of events that don't match reality. This is called the Mandela effect because millions of people specifically remember Nelson Mandela died in prison. He didn't. People remember his wife walking beside his casket in a funeral procession that was on television for 2 hours that day. This never happened. Or the Berenstain Bears, which people insist were always called the Berenstein Bears. People remember the tycoon from Monopoly having a monocle that he never had. What was Darth Vader famous for saying?
Luke, I am your father.
Nope, he never said that.
What?
What about Stouffer's stovetop stuffing?
Best part of Thanksgiving.
No, it isn't, because there's no such product. Stovetop is made by Kraft.
No.
The evil queen from Snow White who looked into her mirror and said,
Mirror, mirror on the wall.
Nope.
Magic mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest one of all?
My reality is shattered.
People remember Febreze being spelled with 2 E's. People remember Jiffy peanut butter, but there's no such thing. And there are a lot more. A lot more. Personally, I don't have most of these false memories, but there are a few that get me. The Flintstones. There are 2 T's in the Flintstones. I remember just one. And what about the Fruit of the Loom logo? I could swear it looks like this, but it doesn't. This is the actual logo. No cornucopia.
Cornu what now?
Basket.
Didn't you say basket for crying out loud?
And at the end of Moonraker, a terrible but excellent James Bond movie, I remember Jaw's girlfriend is having braces. I mean, I specifically remember it. She didn't have braces. I just can't get my brain to accept it. That's the Mandela effect. So why do millions of people distinctly remember different things?
Glitch in a simulation.
Yep. Philip K. Dick also felt when we experienced deja vu, it's because something in our simulated universe changed, and a new timeline branched off of the current one.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed.
Ever feel like you've lived a moment before? That's because, according to Philip K. Dick and others, you have. Deja vu is the simulation itself with new information. But skeptics can easily dismiss
We'll leave
these
that going
theories.
on. I'll just
Human
read.
mind is evidence. But we're not done yet.
We're not done yet? Swami. Question.
We live in a huge universe. 200 billion trillion stars. And even if life is rare, you'd think there'd be some evidence of it somewhere. This is Fermi's paradox. According to the Drake equation, there should be over 1 million technologically advanced civilizations just in our galaxy, and on average, the nearest one should be just a few hundred light years away. But there's nothing, at least not that we can see. So where is everybody? Are we really alone in the universe, or does our program only focus on us? And what about the physical rules that are in place? Max Tegmark, a cosmologist at MIT, said the strict laws of physics point to the possibility of a simulation. Putting a cap on the speed of light sure is a good way to keep your Sims from venturing out too far from home. Theoretical physicist James Gates thought simulation theory was crazy. Then he started studying quarks and electrons. He found error-correcting code buried deep inside the equations used to describe string theory.
So you're saying as you dig deeper, you find computer code writ in the fabric of the cosmos, into the equations that we want to use to describe the cosmos. Yes. Computer code, strings of bits of ones and zeros.
Dr. Gates has changed his mind about simulation theory. In 2017, a group of scientists at the University of Washington proved they can embed computer code into strands of DNA. Everything in nature is math. Look at the Fibonacci sequence. You get the Fibonacci sequence by adding two previous numbers in the sequence together. So 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 1 = 3, 3 + 2 = 5, 5 + 3 = 8, and so on forever. You get the golden ratio, also called phi, by dividing two consecutive Fibonacci numbers. So the number 89 is a Fibonacci number. The next number in the sequence after 89 is 144. 144 divided by 89 is the golden ratio. It's about 1.618. We see Fibonacci numbers and the golden ratio everywhere. The number of petals on a flower is usually a Fibonacci number. Lilies have 3 petals, buttercups have 5, chicory has 21, and a daisy has 34. And the spacing of each petal is arranged in a circle according to the golden ratio. As trees grow, the number of branches they form is a Fibonacci number. And not just plants, animals too. The ratio of female to male honeybees in a colony is the golden ratio, 1.618. The human body conforms to the golden ratio too. Most of the body follows the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 5. 1 nose, 2 eyes, 3 limb segments, 5 fingers, 5 toes. The proportions of the body, like the length of your shoulder to your elbow, and from your elbow to your fingertips, that's the golden ratio. Even a DNA molecule measures 34 angstroms long by 21 angstroms wide. Fibonacci numbers and the golden ratio. From the spiral of seashells to the spiral of a galaxy and everything in between, Fibonacci numbers are everywhere. Now, some claim this is a coincidence, that humans look for patterns in chaos because that's what we're programmed to do.
That's what we're programmed to do. I don't know if I can answer that question. I can't answer the question from Swami. I will call him up. Won't do that. Oh well. Swami, can you rejigger your statement there? Okay, kids. I think it's time for me to hit the belly bye. I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. End stream. Yes, I'm going to end it.